I tend to be more.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I have not heard from Krista or Carmen today. So they'll either be here or they won't. I'm not gonna send out reminders anymore. We're all adults. I mean, I'll send out my one that I send. It's a group one, so don't ever feel like you have to respond unless you have something that you're gonna be late or whatever for, because it's an app that I use that sends out the same message to a group, but it's not in a group text, which I so appreciate. Okay, everybody's on mute, so everybody needs to come off mute because it's just the three of us.
Yeah. I was saying, Shireen, your hair looks cute. Did you get it done?
Get back on mute. I don't even know how I got back on mute.
Maybe when I hit record. I don't know.
Or I could have done it.
She was saying your hair looked really cute. Did you get it done?
Oh, thank you. I did. She cut it a little bit different. It's taking me a minute. I think I obviously like it when she does it. Then I wasn't certain day one of my doing it, but it's getting a little bit better. She wanted shorter and flirtier, and I was like, sure, that sounds fun.
And the big
I just
earring.
got mine colored but not cut, and so like she always like she can't do like the same thing I can do when she does my hair, so it doesn't always look as good. But too bad today.
I think
She used to always want to blow dry it for me, and it would be like flat as flat can be. And I was like, Shannon, just don't. It's fine. I can leave with curly hair.
You don't need the blowout. I know I'm usually the one that says, "Can you put more hairspray on?" Because I'm used to that old silver Aquanet. Remember that? The
Yeah.
silver it's stiff.
I just needed to get rid of the grays. I was getting like this big patch right here of gray, and I was like, all right, that has to go.
I tell you where I'm noticing gray. Since she colored those in, it's like, oh shit, I don't want to pluck them. So then I put the powder on.
I know I barely have any eyebrows as it is.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, enough of that.
The woes of being women.
Right? I know. Okay, I'm reading this book right now. Holy shit, is it really good? And I just have to share it with you. It's a fiction book and it's called The Woman, Women, by, she wrote The Nightingale too. Hold on, I'll look it up. And I think you can download it on Audible or it's by Kristen Hanna. And it is about this girl who signs up to be a nurse in Vietnam War. So I kept thinking about MASH, right? And then her transition back to America. And I mean, it's this thick and I'm 2/3 of the way through it. I read it all day yesterday on my flight.
Oh wow.
It's really
I will say MASH is my childhood nemesis because my dad always wanted to watch it and
mine too.
Did not want to watch that show all the time,
Yeah. Well, and the only reason it's reminding me of MASH is I thought, oh, I wouldn't mind going back and watching a few episodes, right? Because back then the country was told there were no women in the war. And there were all these women over there as nurses. And I don't know, it's just really fascinating. And it reminded me like all the protests and all the stuff happening. It just was reminding me of some of the things that we are currently experiencing, right? I mean, different.
Yeah, it's not the first time.
Protests. Yeah. Yeah. So it was somewhat reassuring because I'm like, oh, our country's been through like upheaval before, right? Like, and it was also about political affiliation. It's just more of, okay, I can calm down.
Yeah, my mom is purging her house and vomiting all over my house with childhood stuff. Like I would really like you just to keep it at your house, but she's like, no, it's yours. But anyway, some letters from my dad she brought over. And it was funny. He must have been in treatment or something. So it's not dated, so I can't like place it. But he's like, I miss y'all and blah, 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 and da, da, da. Then there is this diatribe on like our stance in the world and haven't we learned? And he went to some war museum and he's like, I kind of have a love-hate with it, and then he went into this, we control all people and we're, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, people are like this all the time and had pros and cons to being American.
That is a very true statement. Okay. So before I forget, I would like for you all to get this little book out again.
Okay, I don't have mine with me.
No,
Do you
no,
want me
no,
to
not
get
today,
it? Okay.
but for homework.
Oh,
Because here's the deal. We do not, we'll have our mastermind next Tuesday. And then we decided July has 5 Tuesdays. So we said we were going to skip the first because it's the 4th of July week.
okay.
And so you should have them on your, I sent out new meeting notices a while back, but you should have it on there then the second, third, fourth, and fifth Tuesday of the month. So it gives you 2 weeks, 3 weeks actually, to do this homework. And I want you to read 107 through 130.
This book
Mhm.
perplexes me because we jump around in it. Like I'm not used to I read from the beginning to the end. I'm just like
I'm throwing you for a loop.
I feel like obviously I'm fine with it any which way, but I feel like, oh my God, I need to read it to the end so then I can jump around, you know.
No, just jump around. And we've actually done, I mean, you can read the other stuff. We've actually, because the one prior to that is about setting goals, right? And there's some activities in there around the goal setting thing. But we've actually done the work
Yeah.
around it up to that. And then I will share with you, if you guys have this book, I gave it away at my October retreat, the abundance
Yeah.
book. It's got a 40-day thing. So I just wrote in here today and tonight I'm going to do my little meditation on it, where it has you write this thing. This day, June 17th, 2025, I cease believing invisible money is my supply and my support, and I view the world of effect as it truly is. So it's pretty cool. And it has you do this for 40 days and it has 10 different principles that you meditate on every day. So you end up doing the principles 4 times, but that's a good little one to do. So, but yeah, that
Just
women, if you like fiction, and I loved her first book, The Nightingale. It's my favorite fiction book about Nazi occupied France and two sisters.
I like to
that's
read books
just
that take me away to like non-stressful, non like real world things.
Well, this one, it's funny, it's not stressful.
No?
No, I mean,
Even
but
though
it's
it's set during the war?
yeah, and even though like there's times like her first day, it was funny because she's like, I show up in my little white uniform and right, like my little hat, and that doesn't work. And her first day is where they have this, I forget what they call it, where all these helicopters come in and drop all these guys off, and half of them have limbs missing and all this kind of stuff. Like I didn't feel the agitation or the stress that she felt,
Mm,
but it's just really good. It's like a coming of age story, like
hmm,
wow.
okay.
Now the second part of it is how she's dealing with it when she comes back, because she comes back in her uniform and people are spitting on her and telling her she's a baby killer and all this stuff. And here she's saved all these lives. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's just really good. It just gives me a different viewpoint on people from the Vietnam War and how I remember as a kid hearing about it. But, and prisoners of war. And I thought, oh God, if there were prisoners of war, they probably all died over there by now because they'd be in their
Yeah,
mid.
if they still had them over there.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, it's a good fiction if you want a little escapism. Um,
okay, before you move on, just
yeah.
if you have anything in mind, one of my employees has just learned she has stage 4 breast cancer.
Mm.
And so if there's any, like I do believe in the power of um positive and mindset and taking care of self. But if you know of any book that has that vein, but in the land of health, more so than like empowerment or business or
I will tell you one of the most inspiring books I read was about who's the bicycler that ended up getting all of his medals stripped away that had
Oh,
cancer.
Lance
Lance.
Armstrong.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was super inspiring. My mom got it. And then I have like 3 books. I'm happy to send them to you, Shireen. I'll text you the covers. I've had them sitting there to
Okay.
take to our because we have a little community cancer center. Because like here, people have to travel a long way to get chemo and stuff, and so we give gas cards and rides and all sorts of stuff. And these 3 books are like, one of them's What to Eat, but they're a little older. But I will say, stage 4 breast cancer is no longer a death sentence because of all the advancements that they've made. But I'm so sorry to hear that. That's tough.
Yeah, and she like her home is Guatemala, and she has her residency here, but no health insurance, so there's all the just like the navigating that.
Serena,
So
I will say too, my brother-in-law had rectal cancer and he did not have insurance at the time because he was self-employed and he,
yeah.
didn't own a car lot anymore. And there are also medical grants out there. Now, I don't know if you're not an American citizen, what that looks like in today's environment, but I would definitely tell her to talk to her a doctor or go to a hospital and ask if they, because they do give away, like, it's almost like scholarships, but they're grants for people, and you just have to fill out the paperwork and do the stuff, but that might be
And
helpful.
yeah. And again, she has her residency, but Austin is very much a sanctuary city.
Mm.
So I do believe we have probably resources here for
Yeah.
people that are not
And
citizens.
the American Cancer Society probably has some info on that too. Um, Komen used to be a good resource too. I just don't know if they are. I mean, I would assume they still are, but they might know of some local resources, kind of like our community cancer center, like we do big
Yeah,
fund and stuff.
my mom's actually been through colon cancer and breast cancer and
Yeah.
and been fine through both. Um, and no chemo or radiation or anything like that. And so there's a breast center awareness center or something. Like she sent me the
Okay.
link to that. That seems like a good spot for her to just kind of start asking some questions. But anyway,
Absolutely. Wow.
anyway,
Sorry
just I
to
was
hear
like,
that. Yeah, I want to do a check-in before we start today's exercise because I've been waiting on pins and needles to hear about Pam and all the fallout. And
I
like,
know. I was like, I think we should
do I
do a
need a
Pam
flak
meeting.
jacket? Do I need a
Guys,
flak jacket and a helmet?
something. I need a I need something. Yeah,
Cocktails.
so
Sorry.
I think I told you guys last week that she had had another outburst at our meeting with our consultant and, at our meeting about teaming, productive teaming and, psychological safety. She decided to be an asshole. So we fired her. And when I went to tell the clients, the one client that I thought for sure would have my back was like, we want to keep working with her and we expect you to release us from all
Um,
of the things so that we can keep working with her. And that way we don't have to affect our um, accounting relationship because we want to keep that, but we need her because where we are in the process of all the things that she's doing, it would be too hard to start with somebody new, which I understand. But she also should have said, I'm willing to pay whatever I need to pay to do that. Right. And she didn't. And that really ticked me off. Um, and um, so anyway, I had to go to my attorney. They went to their attorney, did all this stuff. Finally, we came to a number. It's not what I wanted. It's not what I thought was fair, but I need to preserve the accounting revenue right now. So I was like, whatever. And I told her, I said, I need an agreement with you. And then I'm going to need an agreement with her. And she's going to need to sign this agreement before she's going to not be in breach
Right.
to work with you. So we finally got it back. We got it like late yesterday from our attorney, the release for Molly. I already signed the one with the client, the one with Molly. I got back late yesterday. I sent her some corrections. She corrected this morning. We gave it to Molly. Molly still has not signed it. And she's meeting with them right now. So she's in breach of her obligations to us. And I don't really know what to do about it. I'm really kind of pissed. Um,
Ask your attorney what he thinks, or she.
yeah, so I was trying not to involve the attorney more than I had to because it's already going to cost me money. But we tied the release to her signing something that said that she's agreeing that, she is not going to get severance and she's not, like basically she's not going to come after us for any of the other things. She's asked a whole bunch of questions. We've confirmed her understanding on everything. She's asked us to send her all of her files related to the client. And I said, well, you didn't use our system, so we don't actually know where they are. So we have to go find them. and we will in good faith, but once you sign the agreement. And she said, well, I'm meeting with their tech person at 4 o'clock, so it'd be great if you could get to me by then. And we said, well, you're actually not released to work with them until you sign that agreement. She hasn't responded. She hasn't signed it. I texted the client and I said, hey, just want to keep you in the loop. We sent Molly the release. She hasn't signed it.
Does the client get to use her, like, how are these all tied together? Because you've released the client.
I've released the client, but I've not released. So the client signed something saying we won't hire any of your employees, right? And if we do, we owe you 25% of their first year's compensation,
Okay.
right? As a fee, like a finder's
Okay.
fee, kind of. Molly signs, the employees signed something saying we won't go work for anybody we've worked with under your company, or that we were introduced to under your company for, a year, 2 years, whatever the non-compete, non-solicit, non-whatever.
And they sign that when they're employed, like day
They
one.
sign that,
Okay.
yes. And so basically her release it's a separation agreement, says that your employment ended on this day. And all parties agree that in order to move forward, blah, blah, blah. We release her from this, and she releases us from this and this, and
So
nobody's
the
going to sue
client,
anybody, and everything's going to be fine. We did the client one, and I told the client specifically she still has to sign hers. I said that's that. I said the process is you sign yours, then she signs hers, and if she doesn't sign hers, she's in breach. And so right now, if she's meeting with them, she's in breach.
or the client owes you 25%.
No, we've already released the client. That's already a done deal.
Oh, okay.
But
So
Molly, there are things on Molly's side that she could owe us, including attorney fees and other things, for breaching the agreement. So it's been a whole lot of stress with my sister. So that all happened starting on
She's
Wednesday.
in town, yeah.
I called my clients Wednesday. Neither of them answered. I left the messages, talked to them both Thursday. The other client was like, okay, fine, great, whatever, we'll take the new girl. Didn't seem to care. This one was like, I just can't believe you did this to me. And I was like, well, we thought we were going to be able to work through it. And unfortunately we couldn't, and she knows that it was for cause. And she's like, I don't take that lightly. And I told her, I said, the very first thing she said to me was, no, nuh-uh. I said, no, what, Molly? No, I will send this to my lawyer and you will pay me more than a week. Because I offered her a week's worth of severance. That was literally, we put the severance agreement on the screen to go over it with her. And that was the first thing she said to me. And Crystal went, well, I guess this conversation's over. And I said, guess so. And then Molly hung up. So like she got nasty immediately. She got nasty in the meeting where we fired her, right? She was like, well, good luck, because nobody on your team knows anything about HR. You guys have no clue what's going on. How are you going to do this?
apparently you
What are you
don't
going to do about
either.
that? And I said, well, that's a me problem. I'll deal with that. It's not a you problem. So don't worry. And she got nasty, right? And so it just doesn't make me want to do anything for her, right? But I do want to do what's right for the client. This is the client I've had a long-standing relationship with. But if I feel like, again, she held all the cards because I wasn't willing to give up the accounting revenue. And so now it's just kind of like womp womp. And like it's been so freaking stressful. And everybody's like, where's the agreement? Where's this? Where's that? And my attorney's like, trying to squeeze it in. Obviously, she wasn't planning to have to
Right.
do this immediately. So it's going to cost me probably twice as much. And yeah, it's just been a shit show. And I'm so stressed out, and Crystal's stressed out. We just want it to be over. I just wanted to sign the freaking thing and let us move on.
Well, and especially too, because part of what creates stress for you is conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let's see. I just got something
I've
back.
decided with legal stuff like this, and I'm just sharing my thing. It's not a recommendation or anything. You have to do what's right for you. Unless it's really, really big, I pretty much deem it not worth it to
What do you mean?
pursue. Like, for example, I don't know enough, but like the cost perhaps to you to sue her for being in breach and the
No, I'm
energy
not
and
going to do
all,
that.
like you're not going to do it, right? Like, and so then even fighting over this letter or getting all worked up over this letter, it's like to what end? Because you're not going to do it. Like she can sign or not sign isn't going to change how you're going to actually pursue it in the long run. And if you push her or fight with her or get nasty with her or pay the money to the attorney, like she's either going to sign it or not. Like there's still the possibility she's just lazy or wants you to like panic a little bit or whatever, but she's going
Mm-hmm.
to sign it. So I'm kind of like that. Like, I had somebody was in breach of contract, they had a 3-year contract and all this kind of other stuff. And I was all revved up in the beginning, but then I'm like, I'm not gonna freaking sue her. So I might as well just
Yeah,
calm myself down,
but by her signing the release, it releases it means that
correct.
she can't come after me. I'm not worried about going after her. I'm worried about her coming after me. And I'm not going to say you can take my freaking client and you can sue me.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, but the
mm,
likelihood, but she's probably not suing you either, because the resources and the funds and the money and all the stuff that she has to go through.
yeah,
So I don't know. I would just, you didn't ask, but it like I'd give it a
yeah,
day or
she just
two.
signed it.
Okay,
Oh,
I was like,
she
I'd give
did?
it a day
Oh,
or two.
good,
Yeah,
Pam. Yay. Look at us manifesting this.
yeah. That's why I'm like all that angst in the middle.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying is I've learned like with legal stuff, I'm not as good in other areas. But with legal stuff, I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm just gonna let it play out for a minute.
yeah, yeah.
It happened.
I
I've
hate
had to cry.
conflict. Seriously.
Well, you're already all red right through here. And
Yeah,
just to get you
yeah.
comfortable with conflict, because it's really conflict is not all bad, right? And in
Mm,
this situation, it probably what happened is you sent that to the client, and the client said, look,
mhm.
you do this or we're not working together, right?
Yeah,
Like, and so that's good. Way to cover your ass. And Shireen, you're right. Like you have to also weigh what's the opportunity cost in that
yeah,
situation, and is it worth the
And
energy?
just I find the other person doesn't give a shit. Like all my blah, blah, and angst that I have in me and you're fucking with me, or even I call it futuring, what if they see me, like no one else is worrying about those things but me. And so
and my attorney.
Yeah.
if I need to get there, I will. But I tend to like to let's give it a week or two to just see if like
And
Yeah,
here's
well,
the
the thing is
deal.
they're under a like really strict deadline. And so I was like, you got to sign this or you're in breach, right? So like she's literally supposed to be meeting with him right now.
mhm,
Now, so
And
here's
so,
the thing too, right? Like there is this art and science, because universal law, you want to believe that everything works out. However, not everybody believes in the same things that we believe in, and they don't always act the way that, and so yes, it can be a learning and a growth opportunity, but you also, there is this kind of, and I will tell you, this is something I struggle with, right? Like, how do you CYA a little bit, right? Like, I have liability insurance because I don't want somebody to come back and say, you told me to do this thing and it cost me $1 million, right?
yeah.
And although I don't attract people that would be that way, but the decisions and things that we make, and there are certain things that you want to have set up, just like contracts through Airbnb, having, things to cover certain things, because not everybody runs on the same value system. And so it is kind of a slippery slope sometimes to have faith, right? And make sure that you've stopped all the potential ways that somebody can bust your vase, not just poke holes, but like
And
absolutely bust it.
yeah. And mine's more like the way of being while I'm going through it, not that I'm not
Absolutely.
dotting the I or crossing the T. And obviously, I think calling um, the client and saying, like, just FYI, here's where we're at. Like, I think that's a very prudent move. I think it's also prudent to share, Molly, you will be in breach if, you go forward without this signed. Um, but if there's any way to ditch the anxiety in the middle,
yeah.
Absolutely.
which is not always easy. Like
No, I
Well,
just ignored it all weekend or tried to, but every time that thought would cross my mind, my heart would sink and I'd be like, ugh.
And
I would
here's the
get
thing, guys, and what I was saying, Shireen, was not indirect to what you were saying, because
Yeah.
then I agree, right? Because there's that kind of art to doing this and believing in universal law and having the belief in universal law, that and having faith that this is a growth edge. I'm going to learn. It's not going to kill me. It's going to, like, and getting rid of that anxiety. And it's not
Mhm.
easy, right? Because we live in the future, which creates anxiety about what could happen. And it freaks us out. And so then that's where having the tools, and Shireen, I know you do a lot of this too, where you take the breath and you do the box breathing and you do the things. And sometimes I'll go into the what could be the worst thing that could happen, right? Because then if I get to the worst thing and I'm not dying, and I get to the worst thing and could I lose my business? Maybe. Okay. And then what do
Start
I
a
do?
new one.
I
Yeah.
start all over again because I've proved I can do, I don't love this saying, but everybody knows it. I can do hard stuff, right? Like,
Mhm.
and it works. And I get that it's a little bit, because what I want you to be really conscious of, Pam, and I'm not being a very good coach and asking questions, I'm just telling you, but like, I want you to be really conscious that as you're going through this sale period, that you don't make decisions based on fear of how will this impact the sale. You want to be prudent. I love that word, Shreen. You want to like take those things, but doing SWOT analysis are great tools when you're going through a decision making as you're preparing a sale, right? Because part of it is you don't want to lose accounting revenue because you want to keep the valuation of the company high. And then doing a what's the strengths in this decision, what's the weakness, what's an opportunity out of this, and what's a threat for this,
Mhm.
right? And I think just being conscious that you don't step into making decisions from fear.
Yeah, I did actually reach out to the broker and I was like, can we talk? Because I may need to like put a pause on this right now, right? Like there's so many things going on and our revenue is down and we just, had this turnover and we have all this, and I lost half of my HR revenue. And yes, the person we hired is cheaper, but still not
Yeah.
cheap, and I've got to focus because like what I'm selling them just changed in the last couple months because I really took my foot off the gas because I was focusing on the house and the sale and traveling and all that stuff. And we're working on the loan for the house right now. And so that's almost done. And then, we can sign the contract for the house. And then that's like one thing off my plate. But while all that was happening, I like literally took my foot off the gas and wasn't paying attention to like, okay, what is my like runway look like, right? And we've had all these changes in clients, some our choice, some their choice, some economy based, all the things, and I just didn't do the math. Now I'm like, uh, like it does not, it
Well,
doesn't
and
look like it
Pam,
did 2 months ago, and
and I
so
want to go
maybe I
back
just need
to
to like build it back up a little bit.
something, because I would like to do a little myth busting, because you have in your mind, if you're not controlling it, if you're not having your foot completely on the gas, it's going to go to hell in a handbag. I don't think it's that you didn't have your foot on the gas. I think it's that you didn't have a purview looking at your numbers for the future.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, I didn't do any forecasting. I wasn't paying attention. Like, that's what I mean by not having my foot on the gas. I was too distracted by all the things and
Yeah.
not realizing what the outcome of all of these changes was going to have on my P&L. Right. I didn't stay on top of it. And so now I've got to start prospecting and,
Yeah.
getting some clients in the door and get my revenue back up so that I can sell it for what I want to sell it for. And at the end of the day, maybe I'll get to the $2 million that I really wanted. Right. Like, everything happens for a reason.
And how much is your revenue down
Uh,
in
this
the
month,
accounting side?
so far, compared to like where like the average where we were in Q1, like $25,000 in 1 month. Like that's big. It was 15 last month, 25 this month so
Yeah.
far.
Yeah. So then you know in your mind what are the actions that we need to take, and how can you involve some people on your team to help prospect and do those things? Like, what are you doing different today other than feeling like you were distracted? So the law of cause and effect, right? So what haven't you been doing to create funnel, basically, right? For
Yeah,
prospects.
haven't been creating any kind of funnel, right? Like anything. I haven't done any because that's the thing. I don't typically have to. So that's been the challenge. And then seriously, having the whole HR thing this year has been crazy, right? Trying to deal with Molly and all of that, right? I think would have been a lot different if we had chosen differently for that hire. I think
You're
it's
just
all
so
going to
smart now, though.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be great, but like we have to go back and we have to redo our engagement letter terms and conditions because we realized a lot of things that we thought were in there. The way that we do it, non enforceable, and we have all these other things that we need to update and fix and consider. And we go through this periodically where it's like, okay, we need to regroup. The team needs a little bit of capacity back. They need to catch their breath.
Yeah.
I have to kind of, I intentionally have to take my foot off the gas periodically for that. But I think I took it off too long, right? Because I was distracted and didn't properly prepare for the future. And so I'm going to do the rest of the work that I need to do to get the numbers to the people who are still asking for it. Um, but I think if we don't nothing works out with any of those, I told him I was like, I need a break. Like no more calls for like a month at least while I like get back on track. And he said, no, he said, that's totally fine. He was like, you've got all this stuff going on, you're launching a new service, you have all this stuff. And he was like, it's totally fine if you want to take 6 months even.
And so then the part of the growth edge, and you probably already have some KPI dashboards or whatever, but what are some key things to help you keep a purview of things and feel like you're enough in the business to see the things and continue to create the vision, but not feel like you get back down in the weeds too far so that you feel like you don't have any time?
Right. Yes. And that all needs to be worked out. I'm still transitioning clients and still supervising some clients and still having 8 million meetings a week. Like trying to figure out like how do I stop that? There's
Mhm.
just been so much. Even and some of it is networking, right? It's like, oh, this person from Edward Jones wants to talk to you, right? Do I have time for that? No. But what if that's the one guy who has 3 clients he can refer?
Mm.
Right. And it's like networking is networking for a reason. You don't know what you're going to get out of it. Right. And so, all right, I'll make the time. But then it's like, at the end of the week, I've had 47 meetings and been on Zoom all day. And I'm like, holy shit, people stop talking to me. I don't want to talk to anybody.
You're done peopling. Yeah.
And then I have to people all weekend because that's when all my other people want to talk to me. And then I get no break. And I'm like, gonna burst. This is why I want to sell my business. Oh, thank you for letting me get that out.
You're okay.
Holy shit. I'm so done. I'm so tired. It's been stress and just yeah.
Shireen, it looks like you have a piece of wisdom in your
Yeah,
head
no,
there.
I'm just thinking, so similar situation, So I was like, oh yes, let's hear the dashboard that you watch because I want that, and you're like, yeah, I'm figuring it out. I'm like, no, I
I
wanted
mean
the answer.
we have
Um,
the thing that we do for EOS. But we didn't do
and
it this
then
week because we were dealing with Molly.
and then the other thing that it is popping into my head, it's like, what would it look like if you just took a day or two off? Like didn't work, just got still, got clear, like just that reading that abundant ever after and them referencing the be in the eye of the hurricane, not in the swirl of the
Mhm.
hurricane, really landed with me. And so I did last week just really, I didn't like do nothing, but I really slowed it down and I was really intentional. And if something did start to
Swirl.
seep in, I was really intentional and I had a lot of clarity come to me that I don't think I could have gotten to in it. And so I think that's just what's like, would everything fall apart? Is there any possibility? And it's not go on a vacation. It's like literally just be still, like be with yourself,
Yeah.
be quiet, because you do have to reimagine and kind of vision this and see it. And you do have or I see it as you have the opportunity, like, what are the client, you now know what buyers are looking for because you've talked to a
Mhm.
lot of them. Like, what kind of client are they wanting? Like, what kind of business are people wanting to buy?
Yeah.
And you
This
just
is
kind of,
why I don't take time off.
but
This
but like
is my
literally, I'm
calendar.
I know,
Okay.
but I'm serious. Like, what happens if you went to the hospital, you would cancel all of those. Like you wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to do it. And this could be similar enough to like hospital. Like I
Yeah.
gotta cancel.
Potentially by like the end of next week, we have our internal work day, which I already have a meeting scheduled that I'm not supposed to, but I do have a massage scheduled that day. So that's good.
Well,
And I can think a
I
lot while I'm getting a
and I say
massage.
this in love, right? Because Shireen is absolutely right. And what happens is, and God, I can't wait to get into some of this human design stuff with you guys. But what happens is your MO is then to start, like, you get involved, you're in all the meetings, and that feels familiar to you. It's the churn, although you hate it, right? Like it brings comfort. Where like I could tell when Shireen was like, be in the eye of the storm, like just take some time to be with yourself. You're like, "Ugh." Like your facial expression even was like, what? Ugh.
I was like, you have no idea how much I want that.
Yeah.
Like, seriously,
But
how much
see,
I
here's the
would
thing though,
freaking
Pam,
kill
you
for
can
that.
create that.
But here's what happens. I just add way more stress for myself when I get back because all the shit that I avoided while I was gone doesn't go anywhere.
So then who
It's
can
just
help
there on
handle
top
some of
of
that
all the other
shit?
stuff.
Because what happens when you sell? Who's going to handle all that shit? Like, I
New
think this is a
owners.
really good, like, universe pushing you into some growth edge here to say, if I left the business, now granted, you might stay on for a year or two as a consultant, I don't know. But like, if you left
Three,
the,
6 months max.
who handles that?
A new owner.
But nobody wants to buy a job. Like seriously.
Yeah.
Your
No, I agree.
business is worth so much less. If you're like, hey, pay me a lot of money so you can be fucking stressed out and have this hideous schedule and employees that bitch all the time, but I want the premium $2 million. Like, no one buys that shit, Pam.
Yeah, well, good thing I'm not selling that.
Well, but you kind of are, because you're saying the business cannot run for a day without you.
No, I'm saying if
It will
I
create more
take that
stress
day, it creates more stress on the back end for me.
because the business cannot run and people cannot handle what you then gave up for that day. It's still there. It comes on somewhere else. That's what I'm hearing
Yeah.
you say.
Yeah,
That means
that is
there's
true. Because there
activity.
are things that only the business owner does.
Absolutely. But that's not 47 meetings in a week.
No, that's true.
So start with half a day. But then be intentional about what you do. And no matter what, start with 2 hours. Because
I took Friday off last week because my
Debbie,
sister was here. I worked till noon.
yeah, and I
I
hear you
didn't
on this
take Friday
like two
off.
hours. And then I'm also rip the fucking band-aid, like do a day.
true.
Because I don't know that you can decompress enough in 2 hours. And I fear that you'll then go, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But again, you can start with 2 hours, you can start with 20 minutes, you can start with canceling one meeting, but I
Yeah,
encourage
that
you to
doesn't.
start, you
It's
know.
about having spaciousness to work on your business. Because right now, part of the stress for you is you're in the rat race, right?
Mhm.
And some of it rightfully so. You're dealing with the client with the Molly stuff. Now she signed that. Good riddance, right? But like,
Yeah.
can you get yourself out of the main swirl of the tornado? And even if it's you're on the peripheral of the eye, right? It's slower there, right? So
Yeah.
is there a way that you can move that? Because when we get down into the weeds, and sometimes we have to, right? I'm not suggesting, I've seen people, friends of mine even, like have this idea that they don't have to be in the business at all and run the business. Well, not unless you hire a really powerful CEO. Like you
Yeah.
have to have somebody in your business doing
Hmm.
that. But there are ways to remove yourself, and you do a pretty good job of that. Both of you actually do. But then it's those other things like, how do I take myself out of some of these meetings? And I know you've worked on some of this, but this is something that's been around for 18 months with you, right? Like and so I would just challenge you
Yeah.
in a loving way that you have control over this. You just have to decide and what pieces of that won't fall apart and somebody else could handle so that I don't end up working another day somewhere in between my already busy days that are coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and the part of that problem is that, Crystal, who normally would be the one who could take some of that, has been working just as much, if not more than me. So I don't want to give her anything
How do
extra.
you spread the wealth?
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to like, I'm part of what I'm doing right now is training somebody on the big client that I have that I've been responsible for. But that just means like I'm meeting with her like 4 times a week to go over stuff and train her. And it would be faster to just do it myself, but I know that I can't stop doing it if I don't train somebody to do it. Right. So like here I am, 4 meetings with her. And then, I still have 2 or 3 client meetings that I have to take. And
Yeah, and
we have a team
you have
meeting, a leadership meeting, an HR meeting, a one-on-one with Crystal, a one-on-one with the employee that I'm supervising. I'm like, that's 6 meetings right there.
But I also like my team, we looked a little bit at like for 2 weeks, we're just going to cancel these meetings. Like we're not going to have this meeting. We're not going to, it's not a forever thing, but it was
Hmm.
like, we got to get some shit done. And like these meetings are kind of just awesome, but not at the expense of this other stuff right now. So I don't know, maybe that's where you could gain some time, like,
and if
and we
you
still communicate in Slack and we still like, connect, but we don't sit
and
for an
if you
hour.
feel like they're still critical. Like I just did that, Shereen. I got rid of the marketing meeting that I had with Meredith and Sarah and I, and I'm like, you know what? My job is to share with Sarah what she needs to do to execute on shit. And Meredith and I'll meet about marketing. I don't need another calendar item in my calendar, right? And I do one-on-ones with them. But what I've also found is that if I do a meeting for an hour, we fill the hour. So if it's
Hmm.
critical, do a 30-minute meeting or do a 20-minute meeting, right? And see how, because you fill the time that you have. So part
Hmm.
of it might be looking at those meetings. And to your point, Shireen, even like getting rid of them for a week and saying, or 2 weeks, we're not going to do this temporarily for these next 2 weeks just to get caught up on some stuff. Continue to communicate. You might find you don't need as many.
Well, I mean, part of that is that we've committed to this MOS model, right? And our meetings are actually very productive. Like
Oh,
it's
good.
things that we do as a leadership team together, that nobody else has time for either. So we do it all in that 1 hour
Oh, nice.
or hour and a half. We go through our things that we need to solve and whatever. It's been amazing. So can't cancel that.
Good.
My one-on-one with Crystal like has to happen, right? That's our chance to like talk about all the moving pieces and all the things we have. I don't want to cancel the team meeting because that's the one chance the whole team has to be together all, like once a week. That's all they get. So it's like I find it hard to be like, these things are all really important, but now I'm stressed and overworked, so we're going to cancel them for a little bit. So are they important? Right?
Well,
Like
I
we
mean,
sold them all on this process and this structure, and then to say, okay, I'm overwhelmed, so I'm going to dismantle that for a few weeks, and then I'm going to bring you back into it. Like I feel like that's disruptive for the team too. So I feel like I just have to solve my shit, figure out why fix the other things so that I don't dismantle the structure that we've put in place that is working and is working really well. Just because of the time suck for me.
And
Um,
that's fair. I think what I'm hearing both Shireen and I say, and Shireen, please correct me because I don't want to put words in your mouth, is just take a look at it and evaluate some of the
yeah,
meetings. You may not need them, and if that's the model that you've set up and you get a lot of work done during those, like even from a team meeting perspective with my team, I went down from once a week to once a month,
yeah.
right?
yeah,
And it
I'm
doesn't.
hearing it a little bit more like this is not right. I was gonna like you have a deadly disease and you like gotta go to the doctor and you gotta get checked, and it's not like you're gonna like cancel life and you're not gonna do it anymore, but I'm hearing in your voice, and some of it could just be the anxiety of the moment, and and it's not there all the time, but there's kind of this critical moment right now
Hmm.
because of all these shifts, you know, that is causing you stress and anxiety. And that if you could just plug some of these pieces, like hire the, get the new accounts in, get the new hire stable, and so
Right.
if that could be the focus, and I don't know if it's a day, a week, 2 weeks, I'm not thinking more than 2 weeks, because then you got to figure shit out, like, well, the business is going and work is going and stuff, but it's kind of like if you did get sick, if you had to go to the hospital, family member died, something happened, like you would figure it out and you would make it
Right.
happen,
Right.
and
Right.
so what if like one of my other coaches, it's like if your life what if your life depended on it, like you expire at the end of today if you don't figure out how to get this shit done, how would you do it? And
Yeah,
it
I
does
mean, if
a
that was the
different
case,
perspective. Well, it does,
it'd be a
it's
little
a different
different. Yeah.
perspective because then I'm a little bit like, but I have to get there like, oh shit, I'm gonna die. Like if I don't figure this out. And then I look at it in a different way. If I have the comfort and the one update that I'll share just kind of about me, because I was talking to Debbie last week in a coaching session and which was great. And I've had this like personally, I realized I've had this like, why did I used to be able to get shit done and now I can't? Like, what the fuck?
Hmm.
And I don't like feel that different. And I would think about all the shit I would move and make happen. And and then it came to me, Debbie, after like within 24 hours of our call. Oh, it's entirely different. I am incredibly adept and strong at running away from shit.
Hmm.
And I can sprint really fast and I can move boxes and mountains and everything out of the way because I'm like, I am getting the fuck out of here. And then because there was stuff going on you're right, in my life. And now I'm like, now it's like, oh, I just want to be really present and I want to be in my home and I don't want to run and I don't, and I'm like, that's fucking unfamiliar. And I don't know how to do it. So of course I'm going to be slower, but I am confident that actually seeing that will help me because
Hmm.
I'm like what worked in the sprint is not going to work in the stand. And I have to learn how to stand.
Yeah.
And so I feel like you're a little bit like you're super adept at running fast and doing things and taking all the meetings and supporting all the people and dashing over here to cook a dinner. And then I think you're in school things and then like superwoman cape. And I also hear similar to me that I want a different life.
Yeah.
That I want to stand still. I
I
don't
want time to
want
get my
to,
nails done so they're not like halfway grown out.
yeah. Yeah. And so I think that just so I personally realized, I'm not saying this is true for you. I was like, oh, I just had a lot of comfort
Yeah.
in the running away from stuff. Like I can just outrun the stress, I can outrun the anxiety, I can outrun the pain, I can just get over there.
It's just
You
like
know,
my best friend calling me and saying her now husband, she calls me and she says, I gotta fucking break up with him. I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, I've only dated assholes. I don't know how to deal with a healthy man. Like, what the hell? But it is the same thing, right?
yeah,
Because we stand in our own shit long enough, our shit stops smelling and we get used to that
Yeah.
cycle, right? And thank you for bringing that up, Shireen, and good, great awareness that you have.
yeah.
And our priorities shift some. And you're right. And like as we become more comfortable about being peaceful, we realize we can get a lot done. It just sometimes doesn't look the way the world expects it to be done either. And that sometimes is a little harder to digest, right?
Hmm.
Because people get accolades for getting this huge list done and these like big audacious goals and blah blah blah, right? Because we're an achievement orientated nation. We just are.
Hmm.
And and so great awareness because the life, like it's about having that life and going back, Pam, even to what you were saying about how these things are happening and sometimes it's coming at you pretty quickly and it's easy to
Hmm.
jump back into that. Let's be busy, 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 right? And then feel like I
Hmm.
can't do anything to change that busy when in fact the only person that can is you.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
and that's one of the things I have the Hannah, our consultant. I thought I was meeting with her this Wednesday. I just realized I scheduled it for next Wednesday, so that's good.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. So there's a little
but like
space.
yeah,
she
there's
was,
some,
she was like, you need to like focus, like number one job right now, period, bring in revenue. Like that has to be your job. And you have to do that before you do anything else. And I'm like looking at my calendar, like, when am I going to do that? She's like,
so
yeah, do
what
it
if
first
we,
thing before you do anything else. I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, except my calendar fills up 2 to 3 weeks in advance. Like, I already have all those meetings scheduled at the beginning of the day.
So I want to use the same thing. And Shireen, it's noticeable in you how you've shifted, even in how
Like
you
I
show
feel
up,
it. Yeah.
how you look, how you like present yourself, everything. And Pam, I would say I'm going to go back to the question Shireen asked. What if your business life, the life of your business depended on it?
Mhm.
Because I mean, I've been telling people this over and over again. I heard this and I thought it was brilliant. The first 2 hours of your day should be spent on revenue generating activities.
Mhm.
And it's not always the same way we've been taught, right? Like I had
Like,
to go through this period to think, oh, me interacting with people on that build her group or me interacting with clients is also revenue generating because it's building the funnel, right? It's not just
Mhm.
going to a networking event. It's not just making, 10 calls to people or whatever that has been my MO in the past. And so sometimes it has to take on a little bit different look and feel, but I would say the same thing, like for all of us, like we need to make sure that if we know we get derailed because we get in all these meetings, then yeah, it needs to happen first thing. Or if we know that we kind of step away from doing something that's revenue generating because it's easier to stay in the busy cycle. I mean, for me, it's buying new planners and mid-year and putting shit in my planner. It's moving furniture, but now I have an office and a home that I can't move furniture because everything fits the way it's supposed to fit and it doesn't move anywhere else, right? Like
Yeah.
great thing about sectional couches, they don't move anywhere else. But like the point being is if you can notice what gets you back in that hamster wheel, and maybe there
Yeah.
are a couple of meetings that you can back out of and say, I
and
trust you handle this.
I'm going to go a little deeper than W2. Like, and again, for me, this is
Yeah.
what's supporting me. And I've only felt it like in the last week. Um, the, because I wanted to call bullshit on it for so long, but it's like taking care of me is the very best way to generate revenue. And it goes back to that give your overflow. And if I'm not good, if I'm not calm, if I'm not present, then I'm in that swirl of the hurricane. And all I can see is I'm not even looking behind me, so I don't even know like, I'm just looking for don't crash into that thing that's swirling.
Mhm.
And it's so reactionary. And I don't know how to explain it, but it is this like coming out of it, really committing to being calm within. It's like the ease at which I can see things is like tenfold. And that's not to say my story, I need $98,000 in 7 days. Don't know where it's coming. I, I don't know. But I'm like, I can't,
I need 25 in about 13 days.
yeah, it's like I can't just
Need
think
is
about
different,
that.
but
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
a want.
yeah,
But
I
that
took out of the,
vibration,
I owe
yeah.
owners their money. Like I took out of the escrow to pay for stuff and now I got to pay the owners and it's not there, but I can be right in that, but it's not serving me. Like, because then I just feel like so angsty and so torn up. And then I can't see, like, to use Johnny's, that, like the 100,000 that's sitting right next to me,
Mhm.
because I'm so, oh, and I know I'm like a little cliche on the sayings, but there were forget the little book, anyway, it was a cute little book, but forget the how, enjoy the wow, do it now. And so anytime I'm getting really caught up in the how, like I can feel it now in my body, like I'm just like, to use your hamster wheel, I'm
Mhm.
like to go in the how, like I just have to. And then I'm gonna say weird stuff shows up, but the universe shows up. I listen, like I don't know what it is, but it does work. But I have to participate and I have to choose.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
just
I
stay
think part of my
calm.
problem is just slowing down long enough to, like, intentionally think it through, right? Because you're right, it's just that go, go, go all the time, all the time, all the time. They say, like, you need something done, give it to a busy person, right? Because they just put it in line with the next thing and they just keep going, right? But
And it
somebody who's
creates
like, I
more,
got time, they might
and
get
it
to it, they might
creates more
not.
stress because you're reacting versus responding.
Yeah.
And I would say not intentionally figure it out. At least for me, it's been intuitively listen. Like it comes from a different spot than my head.
But I have to
Um,
slow down long enough to listen, right?
correct.
Like, that's
Well,
the
or to
thing.
like
It's like,
hear it, like or
because
it
I'm like,
doesn't have.
I got my headphones on, I'm doing my
Okay,
thing, like
and
nobody bug me, right?
you guys are the same line for your pearl. So that's
For what?
interesting. for your Pearl sequence in human design, you have a different number. Pam, you're 52 and Shireen, you're 50. Don't ask me what that means right now because I don't know. But your point number, the line number is a 3.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes to that, I'll tell you more about it at a different time because I don't have those notes right here. But it means that this intuitive piece is really important. So like part of what happens in this is that you're operating like that 0.3 when it's in you prefer to have independence. You prefer to mark your own way. You have creative independence. You like to follow your calling and you're operating from a higher self. That's the big piece, right? That you're a warrior. The universe supports your higher self and growth edges happen, right? Like, so there's more to come, but like, that's where these challenges and tests come. And so I'll tell you more when I know more about how to put it all together. But
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting because the two of you are the same. And there is this intuitive thing in here. So when you're in your intuition and you're responding, you are in more flow than when you're reacting, which is then
Mm-hmm.
what creates some of the stress and the chaos energy, right? Because like
Yes.
you can
Yeah.
see it. Like even if you watch these calls, you can see who's in
Well,
chaos.
that's
I have
yeah,
to.
and that's what I feel about when I say like being in control. I just mean not that.
Yep.
Just not the reactive. Like it's not that I need to decide everything or be the one who does everything,
I
but
totally
I
get it.
don't want the chaos. So that to me is what
So
being in control is not being out of control,
here's the challenge I'm going to give
I
you.
guess.
So instead of maybe you don't cancel any meetings right now, right? Because you're in this mode, but make your meetings 50 minutes instead of 60. So that you have a 10-minute window in between to take a breath, to pause, to reground yourself so that you don't feel like you're in this chaos energy. And another thing that
Mm-hmm.
I recommend to you is my handy dandy pad. I need affiliate links for all sorts of stuff. Your affiliate link is out, Shireen. I sent it in the WhatsApp.
I did. I'm going to get on it.
So we are surrounded. Like if you took old 8-track tapes and took the tapes out of them and put all the things from our 5G phones and from our Wi-Fi this and Wi-Fi that, we would not be able to move. We would be trapped because of all these currents. We do not, I don't remember which is positive, which is negative. They're ions is what they are. And we do not walk barefoot in the grass anymore. Like we used to not wear shoes and that grounded us. So this is plugged into a grounded plug-in that I am like I'm standing in the grass. And it literally, your neurons and protons get all revved up because we're around all this 5G bullshit, right? And all these like things, and it's doing this to us. And then by grounding, but that's why people go out and do these nature things, right? And why they stand and hug trees, and because it's all about getting the neurons to slow down and not be in chaos.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can make your meetings for 50 minutes and say, you guys, we're going to try something for a couple of weeks just so that we can all stay grounded or however you want to do it, we're going to make our meetings 50 minutes. Give yourself that 10 minutes in between. You're going to be tempted to make it 5, make it 10. Like give yourself that 10 minutes to go to the bathroom. Because when you feel like you're
Yeah.
running from that creates more chaos vibration versus I've got 10 minutes. I can go to the restroom. I mean, it just creates a spacious feeling in your day, even if your day is packed, right?
Yeah. And I think the other thing I need to do is be more like hold my boundaries more on the end of meetings, right? Because meetings, and I don't mean internal meetings so much because I know everybody else is like, okay, meeting's over. But with clients, a lot of times, if they want to keep talking, I just let them, right? And it's like, okay, no, we had an hour meeting or we had a 45-minute meeting. We're done. I need to like hold that boundary because I did do that for a long time. I started scheduling 45 or 50-minute meetings so I'd have some time in between. And I never actually got any time in between because it was just like one meeting still ran directly into the other. And like there's like tomorrow I have 1, 2, 3, 4, thought I had 5, but that was
I-
next week
I'm
apparently.
gonna
And
hop
I
off.
think
I
Meetings
that's,
gotta.
on Zoom. That's like
I think
5 hour
you gotta
long
go.
meetings on Zoom. Oh,
Okay,
it's
your
5.
turn. And
Y'all
Stream.
I think that's part of where your growth edge is about 10 minutes before the meeting's up to say, you know what, we're going to get hyper focused here because we got about 10 more minutes.
Yeah.
Like, bring that up because it's a reminder for yourself and it's a reminder for them.
Yeah, and Fireflies has started doing that. I don't know if it's Fireflies or Zoom, but it'll say like, your scheduled meeting time is about to end or something like that. And so like it pings me and I'm like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, most definitely.
But and I also need to find a way I need to get back with Crystal and be like, have to have some space in between my meetings, right? Because like if there's an hour meeting, plug. There's an hour. Like I was like, damn, I thought I had an hour today.
And Pam, I would say, for your own sanity, even over these next 2 weeks, I don't give a shit how hard it is. You protect that because it is life or death for you. And
Yeah.
it's life or death for your business to have time to
Yeah.
create revenue and to have time to stay in groundedness. Because nobody likes desperate energy. And when you're chaos, it feels like desperate energy to people.
I'm putting blocks in my calendar right now that says
But
hold
you
for
don't
for
always
Pam
keep
time.
those. Yeah, you don't
Huh?
always keep those. So I'm
No, but it
telling
means
you,
that Crystal won't book over them without asking me. If I leave them empty, she will book them.
yes,
So I
that's
have
good.
to say, hold hold for Pam time.
I understand that because I have a lot of, you would laugh. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to show you because I know you have a minute here and we're going over, but like in my calendar, I have things not titled, and that usually means I'm going to go
Hmm.
harder because and like today I put a new event in there because other people can schedule on my calendar and I need time to walk my dog.
Hmm.
Right. So, anyway, I hear you. Take
I
deep
do the
breaths
same thing.
out to
Yeah.
me. If you need anything, please.
Yeah.